Hi, my name is Eric Leesburg. I wanted to show you today how Worksoft Certify is able to use SoapUI by SmartBear to be able to make web service calls, either REST or SOAP API calls, and give you a detail on a small demo that we have in the demo environment for this. Here's a basic architecture diagram that shows you that Worksoft Certify interacts with SoapUI through its project system and is able to make calls to real web services out on the network, or is able to create mock or fake services that allow for testing to run locally without having to require a network or an internet connection. You start by loading the SoapUI project, so the numbers here match up with the steps. So skipping some of the comment steps, the first thing we do in step 2 is load the SoapUI project from disk. It's an XML file, and we'll walk through this in a little bit. Then you start the mock service. In this case, we do a currency conversion, passing in US dollars and getting to euros and getting out the exchange rate for doing a US dollars to euro conversion via web service call. So once we've loaded the project and we have started the mock service over here, then we will set our from and to currencies that we want to convert from US dollars to euros. And then once we've set that in Certify, the next step is to actually run the SoapUI project. So it'll actually run that loaded XML file. And when we run that, it'll make the call to the mock service, in this case, get back an exchange rate that's appropriate for that conversion, and then store that in the FX rate variable. So that property gets transferred back. And then finally, we'll write that out as a text message, currency conversion rate with the number amount multiplier. And then after that, we'll stop the mock service, which will basically unload all the appropriate artifacts that are necessary. So that describes the overall architecture. Let me go in and show you what this looks like in the demo environment. This exists in the two demo environments for version 9.03 and 10. I'm going to show you the 10 environment. In the 10 environment, you'll find this SoapUI demo under Sandbox, my name Eric Leesburg, and then SoapUI. Eventually, that'll get moved to the same location as the demo 9.0.3 environment, where it's under the regression tests, and then under processes, where you'll find a SoapUI process that has this specific process in place. So in that SoapUI process, you'll see the SOAP currency converter, and you'll see here that it can do currency conversions from US dollars to euros, or vice versa, same for US dollars to Canadian, and the reverse, as well as to the Mexican peso. And these are all based on early 2017 exchange rates, which obviously might change, but are hard-coded in the mock test. So here's those same steps that I showed you on the slide. And to show you a little bit more detail about these steps, let me show you this project. This currency converter project is stored in the cdemo so web services. I'm just going to go ahead and copy the path here so that I don't have to navigate down to it. You can then launch the SoapUI project from the start menu, or we've got a handy shortcut for it now in our Worksoft demo shortcut list. Once you launch the SoapUI project, you'll go here and you'll import the project. We'll just paste that full path, or you could browse to it. Open that up. So here you can see we've got our currency converter SOAP project, a test suite that will run the project, and then the mock service that is the fake service that represents making a call to the real web service out there. And as you can see, SoapUI supports SOAP and REST testing. So some customers will ask, oh, it's SoapUI, does it support REST calls as well? And yes, it originally was named SOAP because that was the first web protocol, and now there's a REST web API protocol that it also supports. This example is just SOAP. So to see some of the details about the project, this is just a earlier version. So this is our latest copy. In fact, we could probably delete that one. But if we go under the converter SOAP 1.2 and then under conversion rate, we'll see in SOAP parlance or in web, the same is true for web pages. You make a request to the SOAP web service or mock service and you get a response back. So we can look at what that request format looks like in raw XML, since SOAP is in XML. And we can see here that we're going to pass in that from currency and that to currency for our project. So those are the placeholders where the properties will get passed in for US dollars and euros. And then our test suite, if we want to be able to test this here locally to make sure it's working properly, is available here. And we can look at the conversion rate request, that same structure. So the test case just makes the same call through that request. And then the result coming back is our rate, our exchange rate. And we basically are looking for the value conversion rate result, and that's the FX rate that we're going to return back to Certify. And then finally, the mock service itself is down here at the bottom. And once we drill down into here, we'll see all the different conversion rates that are supported, and then what their individual options are. So if you pass in a from currency and a to currency that isn't one of the 6 options, euros to US dollars, vice versa, Mexican peso or Canadian dollars, then you'll just get back a -1 as a conversion rate result that comes back as an FX rate variable. If you pass in US dollars from and euro to, then you'll get a 0.93 back. If you do the opposite, euros to US dollars, you'll get a 1.07, and so on and so forth through all the exchange rates you'll see here. So those are the canned responses that we should see coming back. In this case, we're doing US dollars to euros, so we'll be looking for this 0.93 value coming back. So that represents the overall SoapUI project. And it doesn't have to be running. That's just to view everything. So you can see here that same project, the test suite that I showed you, the test case that's in that test suite that we execute. The endpoint that we call in this case, because it is calling the mock service, we just make a local call to ourselves on port 8080. And that's all the information we really need to provide for the test to be able to make a run against the mock service. Then if we look here, we'll start that mock service up that I showed you in the SoapUI project. We'll set our from currency to US dollars, our to currency to euros that get passed in as a request. We run the SoapUI project, which will actually run the mock test, or run the test that'll call the mock service. We can even set a timeout if we want it to wait. Otherwise, if it's 0, it'll call and wait as long as it needs to call, or you can set a timeout. And then when we get back the exchange rate, conversion rate result, we'll store that in the FX rate variable and get that back, store it in our local rate variable, and then we'll do a small text to concatenate currency conversion rate and the actual rate that came back, the 0.93, and display that on the screen. So let's show that running. And I'll step through this just so you can see each individual step. So our comment, first we load the SoapUI project. This takes the longest typically. Once the environment's set up, it goes pretty fast. So if you're going to demo this, make sure you run through all this once and then it'll load pretty quickly. After we've loaded the project, we then go through the process of setting up the mock service. So the mock service takes a little while to get started. Then we'll set our variables, which is pretty quick. And now we're actually going to run the SOAP project, or in this case, the test case that will call the mock service, passing in US dollars and euros and getting back the 0.93 conversion rate. Here we're going to actually pull that value out that's stored in the FX rate, and we'll see here that a 0.93 was actually pulled out and stored in the rate field. And then finally here we're going to display that information as text on the screen. So here we just use a common field to show that. And then finally we'll stop the mock service. So it's best to demo it that way, stepping through it just to help people see it and go into the SoapUI project and show them what it looks like, because there's not a lot that you can see here as far as any kind of details, other than as you make a call to the service, you'll see that things have passed, and you'll see if any values are coming out of the system itself. So any specific values being returned by the environment, we'll see that kind of information here. So you can look at that if you do run the project end to end without stepping through it. Otherwise, you can just look at the overall results. So that represents our SoapUI project, calling from Certify through SoapUI to a mock web service and back. I hope that was helpful. Thank you.